Hi class, this is lesson 11.4, circumference and arc length. So let's talk about circumference first. The circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. And the ratio of the circumference to the diameter in every circle is the same. This ratio is known as pi. And that's how we spell the word pi, or better known as the symbol pi. Theorem 11.8 is the circumference of a circle. This is something you've already seen before, I'm sure. We'll just remind you what the formula is. So the circumference C of a circle is 2 pi r, or pi times d, where d is the diameter of the circle and r is the radius of the circle. And this should make sense because the radius is halfway across the circle, and the diameter is all the way across. So if I did 2 times my radius, it would equal diameter. So C equals either pi times d or 2 pi r. And you're going to decide which one to use based on whether you have information on the radius or diameter, or whether you're trying to find the radius or diameter. So example 1 here says find the indicated measure. And it says circumference of a circle with a radius 11 meters. So we've got radius, so I know I'm going to use this formula with radius. So I'm going to use C equals 2 pi times my radius. I'm finding the circumference, so C equals 2 pi times my radius is 11. So C equals 2 times 11 is 22 pi. You could say 22 pi meters, or that would be your exact value. Your rounded value would be 69.12 meters. And I found that just by putting 22 times pi into the calculator. B here says the radius of a circle with a circumference of 18 yards. So it'd be a good idea to pause it and try this one. Okay, so this one, we're using radius and circumference, so we're going to use C equals 2 pi r again. This time we have 18 for circumference equals 2 pi, and we're trying to find r. So to get r alone, we would divide both sides by 2 pi. That would move everything over except for r. So I have r equals, well, 18 divided by 2 is 9, and that pi is on the bottom. So 9 over pi yards. Or, for our exact value, we can say r equals 2.86 yards. Sometimes we'll want to use the exact value, sometimes we'll want to use the decimal form. These next ones here say find the indicated measure. Keep it so I can see my formula there. So find the indicated measure. Circumference of a circle with a radius of 23 meters. So I'm going to use this formula because I know I've got radius there. That was my key thing. So I'm going to use C equals 2 pi r. So C equals 2 pi times 23. So C equals 2 times 23 is going to be 46 pi meters, and that would be my exact value. Or if you put that into your calculator, you'll find that C equals 144.51 meters, and that would be a rounded value. And then the next one, the radius of a circle with a circumference of 24 yards. It'd be a good idea again to pause this one, try this one. So we're going to use C equals 2 pi r. So my circumference is 24 equals 2 pi times my radius. I want to get radius alone, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2 pi. So those cancel out. And if I do 24 divided by 2, I find that my radius, my r, equals 12, because 24 divided by 2 is 12 over pi is on the bottom. So it's 12 over pi yards. Or for our exact value, if you do 12 divided by pi, you should find that that is 3.82, 3 82 hundredths yards. And we are not going to do these distance problems. Some of you may not have these in your notes because I did take them out of some of the notes. So some of you may not have that, so you won't be shocked. And let's flip the page over to the next side. So again, we're not going to do this because that's a distance traveled one. So let's look at arc length. So an arc length is a proportion of the circumference of a circle. You can use the measure of an arc, I should put in parentheses, in degrees, to find its length. So last chapter we talked about arc measure. Now we're going to talk about arc length as well. So my arc length corollary here says, in a circle, the ratio of the length of a given arc to the circumference is equal to the ratio of the measure of the arc to 360. So my arc length of AB, so this length, over my entire circumference equals this proportion right here, and that's the measure of the arc in degrees over 360. And I like to use this one. I don't really use this one much at all, because to me this one makes sense. The degree measure of this, the measure of this arc over 360 is a proportion. Just like the length of this over the circumference is also a proportion. So I always set up this problem right here, and I tend to not use this one at all. I'd rather not memorize that and rather just use the proportions for all these problems. So that's what you'll see me do for these ones. Okay, let me move this up a little bit, and let's write some proportions to solve some problems here. So it says find the indicated measure. We want the arc length of AB. So the arc length is going to be how far from A to B as a length, so like as a unit in inches, or actually this one's going to be in meters. So we want to know how far from here to here in meters. Well, we know this radius is 2, so we can find the circumference, and we know this angle is 88, so this arc measure is 88, and all the way around is 360. So let's do the measurement of our arc, which is 88 degrees, out of 360 degrees. That's one of our parts of our proportion. And then here we're going to have our arc length. I'm going to call this my x for my arc length over my circumference. And my circumference of my circle, I know that this 2 is my radius, so I'm going to do 2 times pi times my radius, which is 2. So now I can cross multiply since I have a proportion set up. So to solve this, I'll cross multiply here. So I have 88 times, well, 2 times 2 is really 4 pi, equals, cross multiply here, and we'll have 360 times pi, or times x. And to get that x alone, I would divide both sides by 360. So x equals, now sometimes we want to get the exact value. Sometimes we want to keep our pi in there, and other times we'll just simplify it. I'll just simplify this whole problem right now. So if you put 88 times 4 pi, hit equals, and then divide it by 360, you'll find your answer is 3.07, and then my units would be meters. Now, if you wanted to find your exact value, I'm just putting it in my calculator real quick here to figure that out. If you wanted to find your exact value here, what you could do is do 88 times 4 divided by 360. And if you do 88 times 4 and divide it by 360, you will get, then change it into a fraction, you'll get 44 over 45, and then we could put pi on the top of that fraction with it, and that's meters. And that would be our exact value. And if you did 44 over 45 times pi, you would find that that's 3.07. So I'm just showing you how to find your exact value along with your decimal form. All right, let's look at this next one. We want to find the measure of arc RS. Okay, now we could go this way or this way, but I know that we want to go this way because I've got the 38 feet here. So I know that I am looking for this arc measure right here. So that's my, how many degrees is what I want to find. Now, looking at the information given, this 12.3 feet is actually referring to this little side right here. And it should be a little bit more clear, but it's not, so I'm telling you that right now. So we know the radius. so we can find the circumference. So my circumference is going to be 2 pi times my radius, 12.3. And I know the length in feet of my arc, and that's 38. So I have 38 over 2 pi times 12.3 equals, I want to find my arc measure, so that's x, over the entire circle is 360 degrees. So that's the proportion that I need to solve. And to solve that, I need to do some cross multiplying. So I'll cross multiply here. So I have x times, now 2 times 12.3 would be 24.6 pi. So I have x times 24.6 pi equals, if we cross multiply here, we'll have 38 times 360. Now I want to get x alone, so I'm going to divide both sides by this 24.6 pi to get my x alone. This will cancel out, so I have x equals, and then if you just put 38 times 360 and then divide it by 24.6 pi, you should get 177 1/100th, and then my units would be degrees because I'm finding the measurement of that arc. So this would be my final answer here. Just like in this problem, either of these could be my final answers. And notice I did include my, my units for both of these. The next problem here, let's look at this next one. It says find the indicated measure. Find the indicated measure. This we want the arc length of AB. So I want this length right here. Now I know the arc measure is going to be 97 degrees, so I can write a proportion using that measure. So I've got 97 degrees out of my total is 360 degrees equals, now I know my radius here, so I can write my circumference, and then I need to find this arc measure right here. So it's, or the arc length. So it's x over 2 pi times my radius, which is 4. So I've got 97 over 360 equals x over 2 pi times 4. And that is my, 2 pi times 4 is my circumference. Let's now do a little bit of cross multiplying here. So I'm going to cross multiply right here. 360 times x equals, let's cross multiply here. 97 times, now 2 times 4 is 8 pi. To get x alone, we divide both sides by 360. So x equals, if you put 97 times 8 pi, and then divide that by 360, you should get about 6.77, and we're looking for an arc length, so that's going to be in feet. And that would be my final answer there. The next one right here, we want to find the circumference of circle Z. So we want to find all the way around the circle, and we know this little arc length right here is 3.44 centimeters. We know this measure is 60 degrees, so the arc measure is 60 degrees out of the whole, which is 360. So I know that we can write this problem. Whoops. We can say 60 degrees out of the total, which is 360 degrees, equals, and my arc length is 3.4 centimeters, out of my entire circumference is just c centimeters. I don't know what c is yet, so that's what we're trying to find. So to solve this problem, let's do some cross multiplying again. So I'll cross multiply here, 360 times 3.44 equals, let's cross multiply here, 60c. If we divide both sides by 60 to get my c alone, find that c equals, and if you do 360 times 3 4/44 and divide it by 60, you'll find that it's 20 64/100, and my unit there would be centimeters. So here is my answer. All right, and that's the end of this lesson. We're going to stop right here. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me, and have a great day.